America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For today's agenda, we have our public comment section, but then you'll also see that when we discuss ice activity recently in the area, that we also have a public comment session. So the first part, public comments for anything that is not an agenda item.
Good morning, everybody. Stephen Jacobs. Like many other people in the room and on Zoom, excuse me, I'm eager to hear and participate in the discussion of the ICE issues. They have a human impact on the community, parents, children, full-time residents, part-time residents, a human impact unlike any other issue. So I will, as briefly as I can, address a different issue. It's also a pressing issue, I fear a worsening issue, and an issue that's entirely the creation of the board. 2 weeks ago, members of the public raised questions and renewed concerns about the board's plan to purchase 2 School Street and borrow up to $2 million. We had to raise it at the outset of the meeting, and the reason for that was because, like today, it was not on the official agenda for the meeting and had to be raised first. So I apologize to those that are more anxious to hear the issues that will follow. 2 weeks ago, we were told essentially that the board was going to do what it was going to do. There would be a discussion with the public after the fact, after the transaction, and that the board was legally required not to do anything else. They'd done what they were legally required to do. So in the last 2 weeks, there's been no update to the public on the property, what kind of condition it's in, whether it's as bad on the inside as it appears on the outside. There's been no discussion of where the money should come from, whether it should be borrowed, imposing an additional burden on taxpayers, or whether it should come from the housing fund, which has ample funds. Unfortunately, it seems as though the situation since then has actually gotten worse than that. The last article in the Reporter on this contained the following quote: "The intent of town officials was to have the money to bid, money for renovations, and if other sites could be identified for development, purchases of some of these properties." That's problematic in at least 2 ways, probably more than 2 ways, but I'll just mention 2. The first is that in the discussion of this, there was absolutely no reference to borrowing money for use for anything other than buying and developing 2 School Street. Anybody who doubts that, go look at the video of the January 13th meeting. Moreover, in this case, the board can't use as an excuse, well, they're legally entitled to do what they want to do or not want to do. Why do I say that? I say that because the resolution that the board passed on January 13th was very clear. It says borrowing for a limited purpose, and the purpose indicated was 2 School Street, and there's a reference to incidental expenses. Given other pressing items on the agenda, I won't read the relevant language, but it can be found in the resolution, which is contained in the agenda for the January 13th meeting. It seems crystal clear. In any event, I think it's time for the board to commit to being more open and responsible, and of course, to act legally. Thank you for your time.
Just want to comment, what you read in the paper with respect to using the funds for purchasing other properties is untrue. Just because the paper said it, that's not what this board resolution passed nor can it be the intent of the board. So I just want to put that out there. So anyone else before we move to,
I just want
please
to
come up
support
to the podium.
everything
Come up to the podium and state your name for the
that, I
record.
just want to support everything that Steve said.
Your name for the record, please.
Dave Gentile.
Thank you.
I couldn't say it better than Steve did.
Anyone else? Okay. We have, I'm sorry, Jan. I didn't see your hand raised. Thank you, Federico.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, could you please address the questions that Stephen Jacobs asked? Because this is like recurring practice of the town board, that people are asking questions or stating issues, and then your reaction to it, or the town board's reaction is, thank you very much, and then move on to the next speaker. So could you address this, please?
Yes, we haven't closed on the property yet. It's been delayed. Thomas is in touch with.
Can't hear. Can you speak up?
Yep, sorry. Hold on a second. Thomas, we haven't closed on the property yet, and Thomas is in contact with the company that's handling the closing. And as soon as we have more information, we will share more information. It's not our intention to keep anything hidden. Kim?
Okay, so I have another question, then follow-up question. Did you inspect the house yet?
We have not gotten access to the house yet.
Well, that's very revealing, because
In situations like this, in an auction, that is generally the case.
so on what basis did you bid the price that you bid for the house when you haven't seen it, and you still haven't seen it?
The town board looked at the assessed value, other properties in the area. We looked at what we were willing to spend and set a limit, and we purchased it for less than that limit.
I see. So you basically bought a cat in a bag. All right, thank you. I have no further comments.
Thank you. Kim Noland, I see, Kim, you have two screens showing. I see the one with your video that's muted and then your hand up on another one. You're muted. I'm not getting anything from either one. Okay, the Kim Nolan that's listed without a video is unmuted at this point.
But we can't.
And we're not
hear you.
hearing anything. What I'll do is recognize that you do want to speak, Kim. I'd like to move on to the next topic, and then when we're done with the second item on the agenda, we'll come back to public comments. Okay. If there's no one else for this section, and we'll reopen it later, we'll move on to ICE activity. We have 4 different components to this discussion. We have a public comment session. And the purpose for that is that there is obviously concern in the community, and looking at the turnout today, which I'm very pleased to see. We want to hear from the community. We want to give everyone a forum to express their concerns, their observations. We have Minerva Perez here from OLA to give us an update from what she's been working with and on. We also, after the public comment section, want to look at town board letters similar to something that Southold has done to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement to see whether or not this town board would like to issue a letter to them and what the contents of that letter would be. Then we also want to look at what we want to draft as a public statement to put out on our website and anywhere that it needs to be picked up in the press, things like that. And then lastly, one of the things that Minerva Perez is going to talk about is that she, along with Fred Field, has drafted a draft East End Public Safety and Accountability local law that she's presenting to all 5 East End towns as well as villages within those 5 towns. And so she's going to talk about that. And then when we're done with all the other items, the town board will then look at whether or not we want to pick up and start to work on this legislation that's being proposed. So that's sort of the format for this next section. The first 3, we welcome comments, obviously to start off with, as we're talking about the letter to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Comments are welcome. The public statement that we would look to issue, comments are welcome. When we're talking about legislation, as always, when we start to discuss legislation, we keep it at a work session with just the town board members, because it's legislation that will go to a public hearing. And when we go to public hearings, that's when the public can comment on draft legislation. And then we take it back and decide if we want to proceed with the legislation as drafted or work on it further after the public public hearing session. The reason for that is because it is legislation, we want to have all records on all comments on the public record, which only happens at town board meetings at public hearings. So that's the format, just to be explained, because I know people have questioned why we do things. So public comments, we welcome any. I want to start with Minerva Perez. She is on a somewhat limited timetable, 10-15 availability. So I want to start with an update from you, Minerva, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me today. Thank you, everyone, for your attention. I know that you've got other matters as well that are happening in your town, and I do appreciate and I'm honored that I can that I have your attention for this. So I'm the executive director of OLA of Eastern Long Island. I've been with the organization since 2006. Stepped away, ran the Retreats Domestic Violence Shelter, came back in 2016 as the full-time executive director of OLA. The OLA is historically a Latino-focused and immigrant-focused organization, founded in 2002. However, over the years, what we've learned over our 23 years is that as we build our capacity, we build our ability and our will to serve the East End in a fuller context. And so I do want to mention a couple of things because I think the context is important. I'm not here because I'm not here with OLA only because of what might be happening with ICE or these types of raids. I'm here because I believe that OLA's mission to create a safer, healthier, and more equitable East End for all is a mission that's worthy of a lot of attention and a lot of great work. And so I do have a team right now of 22 people dedicated to a few different realms. But over the years, we found that during COVID, we stepped in spaces that we didn't necessarily expect to, but from the state, from the county, and even from the local perspective, in terms of testing, in terms of supporting those folks or elderly folks or whatnot, to make sure that they had whatever could be accessed at that moment, which in the beginning was scary and wasn't really a lot. Later on, we moved into a space related to mental health because we saw that we could, and we saw that there wasn't adequate mental health support for our adolescents. So we currently are running something called Youth Connect, which is for all adolescents of all backgrounds. We run that in English and Spanish. We run a helpline from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m., 7 days a week. We go into school districts, middle schools, and high schools. Of course, we have been in Shelter Island, and we love it. This is something that we're on the state budget for now for the second year in a row. Small amount, but enough to say that the state understands that our mental health work is critical in our region because it doesn't exist, not the way we're doing it. And the state recognizes that. And so does the county. We're also funded a little bit by the county. So that's another space where, again, it's not a Latino focus. I'm highlighting these things. I just want you to know there's a little bit of a history. I'm sorry, I'm hearing Jan. In our region. Because it doesn't exist.
Can you mute him?
I just did.
Okay. Oh, I'm hearing him.
Yeah.
That's disconcerting.
Nerva.
Thank you, Jan. Sorry about that. And then the last thing that we took on, actually a couple of things. We also spent over $2 million on Chromebooks and hotspots when our children across our entire region on the east end of Long Island didn't have adequate Chromebooks. The schools couldn't move quickly enough to get them what they needed for in-home learning. So we handled that through someone on our board, and that was about $2 million that we spent on that. And then rent arrears, we got involved in a grant or whatever it was, a program through Suffolk County to help pay rent arrears. Ola didn't pay it, but we dedicated staff for the entire East End. And I think that number was well over $1 million that we got paid to landlords, not to individuals, to landlords who were experiencing rent arrears as a result of COVID. So there's a long history we have of making sure that we have the East End in our sights as what can we do to make it better? How can we do better? How can we do more? Here we are at this moment. That's a little bit more sort of at the center of some of the work that we do with our immigrant families and whatnot. But some of these folks are not necessarily immigrants, they're not recent immigrants, pretty much we're all immigrants, unless we've got some indigenous folks in the room right now. But we have been seeing that these that the way that ICE is doing their operations has led to an acknowledgement that our public safety isn't what it was. It's not what it was. When they come to town, we're not enjoying the same level of public safety and peace and access to roadways or a store that we might go to or going to our children's school. We don't have the same access because that level of public safety has been broken when they're in town. We've seen it over and over again. And I'm not referencing other states. I'm referencing the East End of Long Island. I'm referencing Riverhead and Greenport a couple of times, Hampton Bays, West Hampton. There's no reason in the world to think that there's some sort of special immunity that Shelter Island has, or I live in Sag Harbor or Sag Harbor has. We don't have that immunity. The reality is that we have an operation that's happening that when it shows up, there is no order. There is no specific focus of that operation. It creates fear, chaos, injury already on the East End of Long Island, and it could be worse. So what we're looking to do right now with a resolution, and there was one gentleman I know was taken from, he's a Shelter Island person. There are 2 people recently taken in Greenport. Some of the resources that we have go to at least being able to find people and be able to assign some degree of direct representation to at least know where they are. Are they safe? Do they have a viable case? And if they do, these things are very expensive, but we have either our own in-house immigration team. Everything we do is free, by the way. We don't charge for any of these things because we do a financial screen. We want to make sure people are under a certain threshold, but we have an immigration team that might take on some cases, but they really can't take on detention because that has so many different arms to it. They keep moving people around so quickly. So we actually hire out another firm when we can, and we did for one of these gentlemen in that got taken from Greenport, and so we're doing the best we can. So we're not just talking it, we're walking it, and we're reaching out to other organizations and people to help support what the needs might be in terms of who's left behind, in terms of the wife who's now left behind with a newborn, or the other wife who's left behind with other children and a child with severe autism. But these people have been here for 20 plus years. 2 of the gentlemen, not one ticket, not one anything. I have I don't know if you see that on my desk, a pile of his tax documents, years and years of tax documents since I think 2010 or beyond that. So it's something that we lean into in the way that we can through the other work we do. But seeing over and over again the chaos that's created, the fact that whether you're Latino or not, documented or not, what's going to be happening in your child's school, your grandchild's school, what is the tenor, what is the energy there, what happens if there's an ICE raid that's happening right around the time that school is letting out, what are some of what's going on in those schools, what's going on in the streets, what's going on if you're trying to take your elderly relative to the doctors and that's a road where some chaos is happening. So we're looking at this as public safety and accountability, and truly, and I mean that. So I've been working with law enforcement since I was with the retreat, doing trainings and conversations with law enforcement about that topic. And then, of course, when I started with Ola, I started those same conversations regarding Latinos in the community, what we could do to sort of bridge either things that could be understood better, different practices and protocols that might be a little bit more effective in certain ways. So there's an ongoing dialogue that I have with law enforcement, not just the leadership, but also the officers, also dispatch. Same thing with leadership across the East End in terms of towns and villages. So this resolution, this law that we were trying to get passed is something that we pulled together, and I worked directly with Fred Thiel because he's on our board. And he's a person that I worked with for years before he was on our board in the capacity of him as assembly person for our district for, I think, years or something. He has a tremendous insight into the workings of town and village government. I'm not looking to throw wrenches. Certainly he did not either by crafting this resolution. So this resolution represents everything that a town and village board can do, because even though I'm appreciative of a statement that might be made and put on a website, what we're hearing are these statements that go to a certain place that announce, again, either the condemnation of terrible, heinous acts, or the fact, the reiteration that local law enforcement is not acting in the role of ICE. That probably should be stated over and over again. But in reality, what we're doing is closing ourselves in as leaders, as towns and as villages, to not recognize what we can do and not only what we can't do. So I won't get into the weeds of it. I'll make sure that I would like to make sure that everyone in this room and everyone that's interested, can have a chance to read this proposed resolution as well, or the resolution. But it's important that you're seeing it from kind of where we're replacing this. We're replacing this in a way that says towns and villages are able lawfully, without any risk of anything. Their number one sanctuary city, it doesn't even really exist. It's not even a real thing. And there's nothing in this thing that could trigger that. But here's the deal. Who knows what triggers that? Anyone that we know at this point can decide, hey, you use the capital letter A. That's going to from now on be something that triggers sanctuary cities. The reality is you can't run and you can't lead under that kind of threat when there is no definition around that. So we have crafted this in a way that specifically speaks to what a town and village can do with its resources. And we're not saying spend more money. Believe me, we understand the budget. We're talking about what places can be exercising your focus on public safety. You might already have an emergency management team, a public safety committee. All of these areas you probably already have as part of your government and part of your town. So what we're looking to do is make sure that we're recognizing that these actions, when they happen, they're not normal. This is not normally what the town of Shelter Islands experienced. We're concerned that at some point, what if either the roads of the ferry, which is a continuation of 114, is something that ends up being either blocked or stopped, or the flow of traffic changes as a result of some of these actions? There are so many things to consider for each town, towns that have hospitals, towns that have cancer centers. And so what is the plan? We want to make sure that there's a law in place that allows for law enforcement to take a small piece of that, which might be simply identifying and making sure that these folks with masks are in fact working for the federal government. That might be one step. And then also to be able to alert the town board or village board if there are either known, ICE actions that are going to be happening or ICE actions that are happening, so that emergency plans can go into effect. Superintendents call me when a raid is happening. They're asking me who was taken so they can better prepare for whatever that family might be experiencing or that child might be experiencing. This is not a moment where you put this level of public safety on the shoulders of a nonprofit, or on the shoulders of a few people, or on the shoulders of a house of faith, a church or a synagogue. This is when a town or a village, we lean in together, we do what we can do within the law in this context, and we make sure that our public safety and accountability is at the highest level it can possibly be. So that's the nature of this. Thank you for your time on that. I look forward to more conversations, and I do appreciate and thank you for allowing me to speak this much about what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Minerva. And we really do appreciate all that you do, the work that you do within our community. I know you've worked with her on various occasions, and the Teen Connect, I know I'm saying that wrong, that I know she helped to talk to the students at the school, and, in the families that she's working with to get that in place. And also I attended the Know Your Rights program that you had a year and a half ago. And that was very informative for the people who came. So thank you for all of that.
And we have another Know Your Rights we were called into as well. I think it might be happening virtually, but I know that we're doing that with Shelter Island as well.
Thank you, Minerva. All right, members of the community would like to speak?
Good morning. I didn't prepare something, but just took some notes and thinking about reading the resolution. I'm so sorry. I'm Kathleen Lynch. I'm a mental health counselor on the island, also the president of the school board. There's a few Kathleen Lynches, so I always like to make that clear. But it's occurring to me, last night I made a statement at our school board meeting, really just based in the law. So federal and state law requires that we educate every school-age child, regardless of race, creed, color, immigration status, the immigration status of their families. So, and part two, so our protocol is that the only people who are allowed to enter our school building are the Shelter Island Police Department without a warrant, because we have a long-standing trusted relationship with them. So in reading this resolution, which I just did this morning, thank you, Minerva, it occurs to me that if we're required to educate every school-age child in the community, if there was a presence outside of the school, this impedes families from feeling safe bringing their children to school. And if the Shelter Island Police Department is the only agency that can come into our school building without a warrant, aren't they perfectly capable of managing to keep this island safe as they always have? That's it. Thanks so much.
I hate to public speak, but I'll do it anyway. I had the benefit of, Susan Bender. I had the benefit of going to a lecture with Ms. Perez in Southfield last week. I've had the benefit of reading the resolution. And as a matter of public safety, I hope that our board will consider adopting this resolution. Thank you.
I'm Victoria Shields, and I just wanted to thank the board for being proactive on this matter. This is obviously on the minds of a lot of people in this community, and this is an important thing to be ahead of. So I appreciate your consideration. Look forward to seeing the progress on it. Thank you.
Vicki, thank you for what you've been doing in the community too to shed light on this. Anyone else in the physical audience? Terry on Zoom?
We can't hear you, Terry. It looks like you're unmuted, but we still can't hear you.
Yeah, maybe your volume needs to go up.
We still can't hear you.
While you're working on that technical difficulty, Natasha?
Natasha Stowe. This weekend, I sent an email to Chief Reed asking that he make a statement along the lines of the one that Southold's police have made for public safety reasons, and to reassure people who are scared and to make us all feel more comfortable that our police department is doing the right thing, which they have in the past. Certainly in 2020, there were some great things that our police department did. So when I sent that email, I didn't realize that the town board is the police commission. So these governance questions, you know, I live here full time now. I'm still learning. I did not know that the Chief Reed reports actually to all of you who are the police commission. So now that I know that, I should have addressed my email to all of you and asked why. I think it's wonderful that we have public comment, but I don't see why this statement had to wait. I think as the police commission, you all need to make a statement. And I'd just like to read very briefly what is on the Southold Town Board website. town website, which is, the Southold Police Department is aware of the ICE enforcement activity that took place in Greenport Village on February 4th. The Southold Police Department does not enforce immigration law and was not involved in the ICE enforcement activity in any way. Be assured that when you need the services of the Southold Police Department, you can call for assistance without fear, in bold, regardless of your immigration status. Department policy prohibits officers in the Southold Police Department from inquiring about the immigration status. The Southold Police Department patrols in marked Southold Town Police vehicles, and officers wear distinctive Southold Town Police uniforms. Readily identifiable and friendly, our officers serve everyone in town, and no one should fear approaching them for help. And my question to Chief Reed was, why can't he say the same?
Natasha, if you could forward that to us, because I have a Southold statement, but it's different from what you just read.
Okay, I just pulled this literally off the Southold Town website.
Okay.
So
All right, it wasn't there the other day when I was gathering up some information. Okay, that's good.
it's on the Southold.
Yeah. And just to answer to the question quickly, is today, like we're having a work session, it's an opportunity for all 5 town board members to get together and publicly discuss how we're moving forward. So if we had gotten together under cover of darkness in the background, we would have gotten called out on transparency. So we are here today.
But also, all the East End police chiefs have the same policy. So, Southold's policy is no different from ours, and East Hamptons and South Hamptons, they all share the same policy. And I think we've actually made a very similar statement earlier in the year. So it's the same for all the East End police departments. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I had gone over with Chief last week what was in the Southold, what I had from the Southold to make sure, like, this is what we're doing here as well. So we are working on it. And I'm going to, I saw a hand up before I call back on the audience. Terry, do you have your microphone working? No?
No.
No? Okay, all right. Raise your hand again if you get it worked out. Thank you. I saw.
It might be the
Laura.
headset. If she takes off the headset, maybe that
Oh.
will, she unplugs it from the computer?
Sure.
Nope, okay, sorry.
Okay, okay. And then,
Hi, Leslie Pasco. So just to reinforce what was stated earlier, this is an immigration issue, but it goes well beyond an immigration issue to all of our rights and all of our safety. In that light, the other thing that would be helpful as a town board is to inform citizens of what we have a right to do and we don't have a right to do, what we have a right as an observer to do, and where we will be protected by the Shelter Island Police in case of a situation that gets a little, where there's more friction.
good.
Thank you.
That's a good point. Thank you.
David Gentile again. As someone who's been disappointed by the board's lack of transparency in the past and continuing, I just want to take exception to the comment you just made that you had to wait till now before even considering a statement. That was my impression of what you were saying. Because otherwise you would have been called out for a lack of transparency. I don't think anyone in this town objects to the board acting quickly on matters of public safety. And certainly that the issue that we're talking about now does not compare to how the board acts on making a decision whether or not to purchase a piece of property. When there are people's lives involved, please don't speak lightly of our concerns regarding transparency. Thank you.
have a tendency to be very practical, so my thoughts are we need some basic guidelines and some guidance from you. And it's been a week. I want to understand town policies. What protections are in place? What guidelines you suggest we follow? What assistance we have available to us? Really specific questions would be, what role, if any, the town board plays to safeguard our constitutional rights and ensure lawful conduct? If a resident is stopped by federal agents or otherwise harassed, is calling 911 the appropriate recourse? What protections will residents receive? What role, if any, will the local police play in any of these situations? Will the public be informed when federal agents are operating on the island? And if so, what island-wide information system will you be using? What is the town's policy regarding cooperation, non-cooperation, support for federal agents? All of these are basic questions that we haven't had answered while we've been in here now for this last week. As the country changes face, we need to know what our community can rely on, and we do not know that. It would be helpful to have an outline of any measures being taken by this board to protect this community, with relevant policies, jurisdiction limits, residents' rights, and so on. We really do need you to be more proactive.
Anyone else? The physical lights, Jean?
My name is Jean Woods, and I've been here almost 30 years. And first of all, I want to thank you for doing this today. As far as notification goes, if I wasn't on social media, I wouldn't even know that you were meeting today, unfortunately. And I think that the person ahead of me was right, that we really need to get the word out to everybody, no matter where they are in the community, especially the people who are at home, because they are the most vulnerable. And, you know, fear is a terrible thing, especially when you're alone and you have nobody to talk to about it or console you. And I thank you so much for having this meeting today. And I encourage you for being more transparent and getting the word out to everybody. Thank you.
I'm going to take a moment just to put a plug in for Notify Me. It's on the town website, and you can sign up for notifications. And you can get notified of when there's town board meetings, when there's committee meetings, when there's emergency notifications, when there's just general public notifications. So I encourage everybody to sign up, and so we will start to use that. We could have put out a blast on Notify Me that this was a topic on the work session. Anyone who signed up for town board meetings would have gotten notification the agenda was posted and it was on the agenda, but we could also do more with it. Do
you think maybe you could, you know how the police put up those notifications outside?
On the sign?
You know, it wouldn't be a bad idea. Everybody would see it. You know, have any question or the information, it'll be on our file.
Mhm.
You know? I mean,
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else on Zoom? Okay. What I'd like to turn to now is proposal for a town board letter to ICE. And Southold put something out December 2nd, and I'll just read what they have so that we can start to talk about what we like that's in here and what we might want to add. So Southold Town Board is writing to share our concerns regarding the lack of communication between U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and our local government and Southold Town Police Department. We write in our capacity as town board members and Southold Town Police Commissioners. The town of Southold embraces its diverse population and recognizes the significant role of our Hispanic and Latino communities. These communities of Southold Town include both citizens and non-citizens who serve important roles and are valued members of our local workforce. These individuals have both lived and worked in Southold Town for many years, regardless of immigration status. Our schools are enriched by the culture and significant contributions of these Hispanic and Latino families. Both fear and confusion are created within our town when ICE conducts enforcement operations in our area and no information is provided regarding the ICE operation. The resulting insecurity is felt by all of the residents of Southold Town, in addition to our East End neighbors. Members of our police department and the police commissioners receive urgent calls when ICE is reported to be in our area. Our residents fear such activity and reach out for assurance that such activities will be performed in accordance with the law. It is challenging to know what to share with our constituents due to the lack of communication and follow-up when residents are taken into custody by ICE. Our request is for better transparency, which will foster trust between our community and local and other law enforcement agencies. Public safety is a high priority in Southold Town, and we hold ourselves and our community to a high standard. We pride ourselves with our diverse and connected community where neighbors care about neighbors and all residents are valued and most especially respect the rule of law. We appreciate your attention to this critical matter and partnership in serving all residents of Southold Town and look forward to your reply to this communication. I had spoken to Supervisor Krupski. I do not believe that they received a reply, but I'm going to see him tomorrow and we'll follow up. So that's what Southold Town put out. That was back in December, and they were not notified of the activity that took place last Wednesday.
I mean, I sent that with a draft statement on Friday morning, and I think that we should send something out. You know, I mean, I would even be in favor of beefing up the language. I think that it's just so disruptive, and I don't even know what words to use. It's so upsetting to our local community and to our neighboring communities. I think that, you know, that next morning, we were at the Hazard Mitigation Committee, which was good to see you there. And it was great to be able to connect with Chief Reed on that, you know, and, you know, from my understanding is that the local PD was not, neither in Southold nor in Shelter Island was given any word that they were coming. We, you know, finally, once we kind of were let know that, like, they let them know when they were there, and that they said that they had warrants for some individuals, but those were not the individuals that were picked up. So that felt disingenuous. Yeah, at best. So it really does feel like a dragnet, for lack of a better word. And I am just so deeply concerned. I know that we are a small island, and, you know, maybe we won't see ourselves as a target soon. I hope, right? But I am so deeply concerned with both of the folks that travel to our island to work or who commute off, that we are also a conduit for so many workers traveling from fork to fork. And I just really feel that like our specific geography and like the transit patterns put us as a bullseye. And we need to be talking about it. We need to make a plan around it, because there's no reason that this won't happen again. And the anxiety that it causes in our community is just, it's unacceptable. I think, you know, I mean, to this, I would very much like to put out a letter to ICE. Like I said, I'd even be very open to putting in some stronger language. I'm extremely angry. But I also, you know, I would look to the board, and this is our third item. You know, I would echo, I think that we need to be able to move more quickly in making a public statement in responding to this. I think that it would be, you know, I was very impressed when we sat down after the hazard mitigation. The Chief Reed had put so much thought into it. He was so plugged in. They had talking points, and it was great that he was able to print those up and we were able to talk about it. But it's not very helpful just I know, because I was in that room, right? Like I would really like to see that out to the community more quickly. Because I know it soothed some of my anxiety, but I wasn't at liberty to share that. And I think it could have really helped our community. So I know I'm new to the board, and I know that I don't understand maybe how these things work, but I think for me, it was just I couldn't figure out why we couldn't get a statement out more quickly. I drafted something which I'm happy to read. I know you guys all have it, and we'll talk about it in the next thing Friday morning and sent out, but I guess I just don't understand why we have to wait a week.
How does everyone feel about doing, a very similar letter with maybe a little bit of beefed up language?
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Benjamin?
No, absolutely. I am fine with it.
What I would suggest is we, rather than trying to hammer out a letter like right now, let us take this as a template and we can all take a look. Liz, do you want to take lead because you
Yeah,
had some ideas?
I've got ideas.
Yes.
I would love to read you a draft and send that out to the board.
So what we'll do is, if you want to take point on that, and then we'll circulate it amongst ourselves this afternoon after we get done with our meetings, and then just everyone weigh in and we'll get this issued.
Great. Just to clarify the date on that Southhold letter that you just read?
December 2nd,
There's a later one. There was a more recent one that has stronger language. It's on the website. It's been on the website for several days that they put out on January 27th. And I would urge you to use that one as your model rather than one dating in December, which was before the action took place in Greenport.
Okay, thank you. Because when I was looking for this the next day, I did not
Yep,
know
I
that
see
they
it. I
had.
just pulled it up, so.
Okay. Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
And we will see if we can get that up today then.
Do you want to talk about the
Yes.
draft statement?
I was going to say yes.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, if you want to read
Yeah,
that.
I'll just read it. So just for, this is just something that I wrote. I know Ben had some, a couple different, move some word, some grammatical stuff. Also, sorry, I was upset when I wrote it.
That's fair.
So, I know he's weighed in a little bit, but I would love to get some feedback from everybody else. To our Shelter Island neighbors, the Shelter Island Town Board recognizes challenges we face as a community, considering the recent events in the country and specifically in our neighboring town of Greenport related to federal immigration actions. These events have prompted the town board to affirm and pledge the following. The Shelter Island Police Department is fully committed to ensuring fair enforcement of the law with respect for human dignity according to the highest standards of professionalism, integrity and accountability for everyone regardless of immigration status. Our goal is for everyone to feel comfortable interacting with police officers without fear of being reported to immigration authorities. Our local law enforcement and emergency services have a duty to focus on their core responsibilities of protecting public safety and responding to emergencies. The Shelter Island Town Police does not honor detainer requests absent a judicial warrant, and they do not enforce civil immigration law, nor do they assist in the same. And I just wanted to let you know that this is based on talking points that I got from some chief read and from there. I didn't just make it up. Individuals have a right to question and document immigration enforcement activities. However, active interference is a violation of federal law. Quote the law. We pledge to work proactively to ensure that all community members, regardless of background or immigration status, feel safe calling 911, reporting crimes, attending school, participating in religious services, shopping for basic needs, accessing healthcare, and commuting to work without fear. Communicate with our county, state, and federal officials regarding public safety, impact of federal enforcement actions, and advocate for coordination and practices that support public safety, health, and well-being. We will also send a letter to Homeland Security, ICE, something like that, and copy to our federal representatives that express concerns and needs related to public safety and immigration enforcement. We value the diverse backgrounds in our community and recognize our immigrant residents as vital to our town's fabric. On Shelter Island, every resident is an essential and valued member of our community. It's short, but
Yeah, no, it's good.
yeah.
I noticed on, I'm not sure whose comment it was, if it was yours or Benjamin's, drafting a letter asking for coordination modeled on Southold's.
What I was thinking was doing a similar letter to the one that you just.
Oh, the ICE
Yeah.
letter.
Yeah.
Okay, right. I just want to make sure I understood that.
Yeah, I would think that would be a companion piece. And then I also think what I wrote in that, is in, committing, I think that there's for me, how I see it is there's a statement, which I hope that we never have to deal with issuing a statement again, is actually my fondest hope. But, in a situation like this, how I would love to see it is we issue a statement and then we kind of come up with a plan. I think that part of it would be both a letter to immigration. And then I think also, I think sitting down as a board with Chief Reed and just making sure that we really understand and what's possible, what their stance is, what we're going to direct them as police commissioners, right, to do. And then I would also kind of think that there might be a separate statement just to reiterate that. And then I think, I'm very excited about the legislation that Minerva and Fred and Ola has put together. I'm excited to do that. But I also think that there's maybe even, another session where we could consider how we could just support all of our residents. I think that the thing that we can address as a town board through communication, I know that we have limited agency, right? But what we can address through communication is the anxiety of our residents through just communicating what our stance is and information as we know. And I think that we can do a better job.
Minerva, I see you raised your hand.
Thank you so much. I'll be brief. I think that's a very strong statement. I think it's in a wonderful direction. I'm going to speak for folks that are hiding in a basement right now. When I say that, I'm going to speak for the quarter of the children that couldn't make it to Greenport School. I'm going to say that statements are strong. What's important about enacting a local law and a plan is that it's actually going to show some of those folks that are hiding in a basement and some of the folks that are sitting in this room right here that are not Latino, that might be the folks that are suddenly finding themselves caught up in something at a CVS or on the line for the ferry, is that making sure that this resolution, it has enough space in it for you to craft the plan that's right for Shelter Island. But the key intent there is a plan. The key intent is that the town board, the people, the police department, the emergency management services, that everyone, the school, that everyone kind of come together to say, what is the need here? What is that communication chain? What are we all ready to do when we know that either ICE is in our town or on our shores? And it has already hit you because one of your people was taken already. And it was already on Shelter Island, on the ferry system, kind of waiting. So you've been affected, you're not protected. And what does that plan look like? And if you never have to use the plan, hallelujah. But what I just wanted to reiterate was that what's so important about this resolution is that it has built into it, of course, the sort of the DNA, whatever town or village that is, to make sure that all of the that you're representing are part of that plan, and everyone has a role and everyone knows the role and everyone has communication. I think the statements are important to put out there, but don't value the response or the non-response that we get as individuals, as people who are, leading town boards, village boards, the county, the state. There's not a value placed on a value system that cares for the humans that you're responsible for. When that's not valued, it becomes very hard to see that as sort of a lasting thing. I think putting something into law where everyone understands in the community will understand that there are responsibilities that everyone has. They understand the parameters, what can law enforcement do, not just what they can't do. What is the town or village going to do? What are the citizens and residents of that town able to do? All of those parameters are what people are aching for right now, because everyone is at sea. Everyone feels like every law that could be broken is broken, and no one's safer, and part of this provision, part of this resolution also highlights the fact that, yes, because I think someone said that, I forget who, but that our local law enforcement has been doing an amazing job keeping us safe. We live in a safe, peaceful, calm, group of communities. And that is critical to acknowledge, so that when this other entity comes into town and breaks that, it does break the back of that trust. And no matter how many times, it's true. We say it over and over again. If there's a crime, we want you to go to law enforcement, report that crime, talk to law enforcement. We'll go with you. Just this last week, we accompanied 5 different people for different types of crimes, violent crimes, and also financial crimes and fraud. And then they get their own experience. It's like, oh, wow, this is wonderful. I get to go to the police. And we echo that over and over again. But the reality is that these actions do hurt the everyday relationships that we have. And we want to make sure that there is something in place that's a positive response to that. And an active response to that. So I just want to applaud the statement. I applaud all, because I'm going to jump off, but all the folks that have made your statements. I'm sitting over here like completely verklempt, because it's wonderful to all. And all of that should be in whatever plan that comes forward. And I do hope, I look forward to whatever next conversations happen. Thank you to the board, and thank you to everyone. And I'll hopefully see you very soon. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I was hoping, as we get into the next item, that we, give me just a second, but yes, come on up, you'll be up next. I was hoping that we could get into a little bit, as one of the authors of the law, that she could go through it with us a little bit, but perhaps we can invite her back as we go through it, because one of the things that is in here that I like is a community task force on immigration enforcement, and something that could be created in order to, what is our plan, like, how do we react to situations, sitting down with law enforcement to understand what is behavior that won't interfere with, getting someone arrested, or, put someone in a dangerous situation, similar to what we've seen in Minnesota. So anyways, to be continued, but.
Stephen Jacobs again. I fully share the concerns and the fears. I just think the board needs to be careful in distinguishing what you say to the community, what resolutions you pass, and what you write to ICE. And in terms of writing to ICE, it seems to me the test is what can you say that might be helpful, versus what can you say that may simply attract attention to Shelter Island. And obviously, all of us, I think, or at least most of us, would like to get a lot off our chest and say it to the community, say it to ICE. But I think we really need to be very careful about what we're saying to ICE. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Anyone else before we move into talking about the legislation? When I spoke to Supervisor Kupsky last week, there is going to be a meeting of the 5 East End supervisors and chiefs of police to go over, because we want to, as we roll this out, make sure that, you know, everyone is on the same page and we are looking at things in the same way, you know, drafting the same types of things so that the expectation from town to town is cohesive. Something that came up recently had to do with e-bikes and helmet laws, and they're not the same from town to town. And so that's something that the 5 towns are going to work together on. And, you know, this is no way the same, but it just, that highlighted that we need to all be on the same page so that the expectation amongst the public is that we are consistent from town to town in how we are dealing with and reacting to these situations that arise. So that's going to be coming up. Not sure when. Supervisor Kupsky's in the process of pulling that together. I was hoping it would be this week, and he said it would not be possible with everyone's schedules, but from my mind, we can't get together fast enough.
Yeah, I think it would be good if all of the East End towns are on the same page with the resolution. It makes more of a statement than if each town is adopting their own thing and they're not really cohesive. You know, you don't want it to turn into a situation where everyone's just virtue signaling, but it has no actual weight to it. But I think if all the East End towns are working together and coming up with a cohesive plan, then it has more power than if everybody is just kind of winging it on their own. So I think it would be nice for us to work together and come up with a unified legislation.
And I guess the question would be then is, I know that the supervisors meet, but like, we should think about how we're bubbling up just our feedback up into that. So it's not, you know,
Yes.
like, it's not just like 5 people in a room.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely. Or 10, the chiefs. But yes, definitely. I may also want to talk to Supervisor Krupski is, you know, like, can we each bring an extra board member just so we've got, you know,
Yeah.
you know, more voices in the room. So. But I think this is something, you know, I personally want to pick up and continue working on. How do the rest of you feel?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if we can all do it together, it's a stronger statement.
Yes.
And it may have more protections for the East End rather than just targeting the East End.
Yeah.
I think like getting into it specifically, is it okay if I just like dig in? You know, the kind of starting with section 3, you know, the impersonation prevention investigation reporting, it would be great to have a sit down with Chief Reed in the police department just to see, just to kind of talk about, I know that Ola has been talking with them, but just to make sure that like, does this seem like something that is able to be done in such a small community, right? You know, I think that like, I just have logistical questions on that one. So I would want his feedback on that particular part. The other section that I think that we probably need to put some real thought into is the section 5, which is basically, you know, and I think community members have talked about that, you know, it's like kind of just like notifying, right? So that how are we, and I hope it never happens, I hope we never deal with it, right? But like, what would we do? What would be our plan if we were to see an action like we saw again on Wednesday? Because it was just kind of like a whisper network and social media and stuff like it, which is like great. I'm so glad that the word got out, but how as a town are we going to communicate that? So that's kind of what, you know, it's like that part C, develop a plan to share such reports and members of the public, right? And so I think that we need to kind of think about what is a way that makes sense, that we can truly get the word out. And I think the other part of it the thing that I really heard from Minerva is that, and God bless them for all the work that they're doing, but you know, I think what I heard her communicating is she's like, we're a nonprofit. We should not be point on this. And so like as towns, we have to kind of step into that. And so how do we step in, right? Like, how are we stepping in to be liaison with the police, to be liaison with the school, to be getting out that information. What's like, how does that work, right? And I think that that's something that we haven't done. And I think the other challenge that I see, just as a newbie, is how do we move fast, right? How do we move fast in a situation like that? And basically, like, what are the protocols, right? Like, do we all have to sign off on something? Is it a quorum? How do we do, I just literally have logistical questions as to how we would do that. But I think that we have to kind of put some time in to kind of think about how that works, so that, like I said, hopefully we never deal with it again. But were we to, how do we roll that out, right? Because we should be point on this, we should be proactive on this and not reacting to it, We should be supporting OLA, not relying on them to get that information, right? Which is kind of like where we landed this time, which is like, it is what it is, but like, how can we do better? So like I said, being point, and like the town being the liaison. And then D, right? I'm like a community task force on immigration enforcement. I think that that's really, I think that would be good. The license plate situation, that's like something I think we got to talk with Chief Reed. So like, there's like
I could already do that, so.
Yeah, like there's two parts of like, so like the things that I see is like some stuff for us to work out as a town board. Like, how would we, how could we do this? And then it seems like there's like a meeting with the police department to just be like, okay, like what's possible? Could we do this as it's laid out? Is there a different way so that we can, and I think especially like you said, I agree with you. I think that it's stronger if it comes from all 5 East End towns, but because we are such a small community, the way we do it might have to be different just because logistically. So getting that in the mix, I think early is important as all the towns are considering it.
Yeah. So, as I look at all these things, we're gonna need some very strong legal guidance, because even when it comes to notifying the public, you want to make sure that there's a process in place where it doesn't lead to impediment. Like, there's a whole bunch of different things that we have to be careful of and how we roll it out, and it'll come down to the procedures and the policies that we set up.
Yep.
So I think we do need PD involved, but I also think we're going to need some stronger legal guidance too.
Yeah, and I think that like you're absolutely right. And I think that that's why it's really important for us to pre-think these out, so that like in that morning when we're getting like the call, holy crap, like this is happening, that we're not like inventing the wheel in that moment, because like we don't have time, right? Like we're not able to. So if we already know, okay, if something were to happen, we know that we've talked to Thomas and PD, you know what I mean? We know that we have everybody sign off. It's just like, okay, guys, are we gonna, we're gonna do the thing, right? Yeah.
But I think that's why all the East End towns working together, pulling resources works for this, because then you're going to get guidance from everybody's attorneys, everybody's PDs. You're gonna have a better comprehensive look at it. So like that's the direction. I don't want to try to wing this on our own. I think it's better to get everybody's input, especially from towns who've already had to deal directly with ICE. Like we haven't had to directly deal with them yet, but Southwold has, Riverhead has. So I would like to hear from them what guidance they've gotten, how their PD has had, what kind of interactions, and where they found barriers to communication with them, so that we can put that information into the resolution.
Right. I think the other thing is just like thinking about, which I think is specific to us and maybe something that we could bring to that like forum of the East End towns, of just like thinking about what we think would be effective communication on Shelter Island, right? Like, because I think every community is going to be different. And so I think that that's something that we really have to think about. And like, and then kind of, and then taking that and like looking at it through the lens of like PD and legal, but like, is that the town website, the social media,
Well,
blah,
I
blah, blah.
mean,
You know,
it's-
like, I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer to that is.
Right. It would
off the
be
top of my head.
the Same way we roll out everything on everything, so.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
because
we have
last
to-
Wednesday, the rumor mill was rampant, you know, it's being filmed,
Yeah.
ice is down at the ferry, and it's like, I just got onto the ferry, they are not here. You know, like,
Yeah.
they were in Greenport earlier, take a closer look at the picture, you know, so.
Right.
But we need to get that out there so that the rumors, you know, and the fear that got generated because
Yeah.
of the rumors, you know, we need to be able to step in and be able to.
Yeah.
figure this out, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the other thing that I thought was, you know, was interesting is like what I noticed through that like couple days is that, and maybe it's a longer conversation with Minerva, and is just like, you know, like I said, we were really relying, at least I was, on Ola for information as to what was going on, which now that like I think about it is like super backwards, you know? And so how, like I said, how are we providing that, or how are we partnering to kind of get that out so that we're, can be that source, right?
Any last, oh, come on up, I was gonna say, any last comments from the public?
John Cronin, just one other thing I would suggest is that most of America, in terms of mass transit, at least local mass transit, is under the control of regional or town authorities. We're very unique in that the mass transit for Shelter Island is under the control of 2 private companies. So anything that you do in terms of developing a plan on how to handle this, you might want to check with each of the ferries and see what internal policies they've given to their crews regarding this issue. Because you're only as strong as those connection points. And if you don't know what the ferry policies are with regard to dealing with this issue, you're going to remain vulnerable. Thank you.
Natasha Stowe, I just want to make a correction to what I said. You're correct. The letter from December is the latest Southwold communication to DHS.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, when I was looking for it, it was hard to find, but I. Yeah. We will then move on to the next agenda item. Thank you, everyone, so much for coming today, and I'm really pleased with the turnout. I really am. One of the things I love about this community. We're going through property tax exemptions. All right, so the next item on the agenda, it was discussed last week, and I unfortunately was out sick, but when I got back and started to, actually, I'm going to just pause for a minute.
Let
'cause
everybody
I'll
do
let everybody who's staying, stay, and everybody who's leaving, but since we have more agenda items. So I was not here last week, unfortunately. I got hit with the flu, but 2 items, well, actually a whole host of items were discussed about various property tax exemptions. And of the ones that were discussed last week, there were 2 that when Judith and I sat down, the senior citizen exemption change and the firefighter and EMS exemption eligibility. The other ones, while important, just don't have as big of an impact on our community. And then, as Judith and I were also talking, there was a new one out, the creation of accessory dwelling units and capital improvements exemption, which is something that is exciting. But if we want these, so the tax rolls went out, and I'm going to let Judith take over in a minute because she can explain this better than I, but from the higher level, the tax bills that went out in December for it's the 2025, 2026 year. It goes from December 1st, 2025 through November 30th, 2026. Those bills are out, the exemptions are applied. If we want to make any changes to the exemptions for next year's tax bill, which would be the 26, 27 tax bills, even though they don't go out in December, March 1st is the date that the town board needs to adopt any changes that we're going to make. And so it was lightly touched upon, and when Judith and I talked about it 2 weeks ago to put it onto the agenda, in my head, I was thinking these are resolutions and we have a meeting on February 23rd. Once I got back and my head was clear again, it was like, oh, wait a second, these are legislative laws, except for the senior exemption, which still requires a public hearing. In order to make that happen, we'd have to have a public hearing on February 23rd and pass it either February 23rd or have another special meeting on February 24th so that we can discuss it after the public hearing if we want them to go into effect. So unfortunately, it created a little bit of a fire drill for Judith and myself and Thomas over the weekend to make sure that we got the wording on these resolutions in place so that we could discuss them today. So that's kind of the precursor as to why they're back on here and why we have scheduled a special meeting to see if we want to set the public hearings. So our goal through this discussion at the work session is to decide whether or not we want to put these on to set public hearings for February 23rd. And so with that, I'm going to let Judith take over and go through these. And one of the things I know which you had asked for last week was what the financial implication to the town was on these. And so Judith crunched through the numbers and I looked over them to have a second set of eyes on them. And so she has information for us.
Great. So, again, going back to starting at the beginning with exemptions, to qualify for any exemptions, Shelter Island must be your primary residence, right? And then you must meet the certain criteria within the exemption to meet the other requirements to be eligible for any of the exemptions. So, going into a revision of the PowerPoint that I provided last week, we could put the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'm gonna skip right to page 3 of it, if we could. On page 3 shows the senior citizens, and I just want to go over that one briefly, that one page. And so there you can see our current options, right? So there's a maximum amount of money that the senior citizens can make, which would be that $58,400, right? And at that point, to be eligible for this exemption, if you make less than that and you fall into the sliding scale somewhere, you'd be eligible to get that percentage off. So right now, if you're making less than $50,000, you are receiving 50% off of your assessed value, right? So that is our current lineup. The new option would be if you are making less than $47,000 a year, you would be eligible for up to 65% off the assessed value. So it's not changing the current status too much. It would just be saying the ones who make even less than that $50,000 may qualify for a higher exempt amount off their assessed value. So in doing the number crunching, and again, there are only 80 recipients of this exemption. There would be, on the next slide, it would tell you that there would be an additional $21 million in exempt amount, right? And that 21 million translates to roughly $42,000 in tax dollars that need to be redistributed amongst the rest of the tax base, right? And in doing that, I then took, you had to change essentially what happens is you have to add that 21 million back in, right? So then when you did that, it causes an increase of $10.51 per home if you have an assessed value of the median home assessed value of $1,621,000. And these calculations are town only. So if the county were to increase it or the school were to adopt this, then this $10 would be a little more.
But right now, for the town, you would be seeing a $10.51 increase if you have an assessed value of $1,621,000.
What I'd like to do is, since we've got like we've broken these up into 3 separate resolutions to be decided upon, so I'd like to pause there and, see what the board, how we feel about that, or whether or not this is something that we'd like to take to the public on February 23rd and get their input.
I would like to.
I would very much like to.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, we're talking a lot about, affordable housing and keeping, families and seniors on the island. And I think you had done a calculation as to what the savings might be for a senior, like the average senior.
Oh, yes, I think it was around $175, or I think it was actually a little more. I think that was my first calculation. I think it was more than that. I think the total calculation, I don't have it with me, unfortunately.
Yeah, sorry.
$400 savings.
Every little bit helps.
Yeah.
Every little bit helps.
Especially when you're making less than $50,000 a year and trying to live here.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think we pulled somebody to use as an example, and this was somebody whose house is valued at 1.3 million, and they would save $399 in taxes per year.
Let's do it.
Okay, so that is something that we will then keep on our special meeting agenda to set the public hearing. Okay.
Just a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Have we looked at how this exemption will scale over the next 10 or 15 or 20 years? The population is aging, so this number is going to grow. Have we looked at it that way as well?
No, we did not.
Yeah, do you
But
have?
I will say the amount of recipients has been declining. I will say.
Yeah.
So.
Because it was like 72 or something. It was like under 80 that were getting this exemption, I think, from your.
It's 80 people who get the exemption total. It is 72 people who receive the 50%.
Right. So
Right.
it's a pretty
Okay.
small
So there's a
amount.
good chance it may just remain flat.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's hard for us to do anything forward thinking. We can only look at, as Judith said, it's, gotten less just because we don't know, the exact age of all of our homeowners. And we don't know those who would be coming into this, what their income situation, what their financial picture looks like.
Oh, no, absolutely. But you can look at the trends and, okay, but the trend seems to be flat, which is good.
Okay, so we'll set that today. Okay, fire and EMS.
Okay.
Okay, and yes, so on this one, there's actually 2 of us that need to recuse ourselves. Married to a firefighter, and so this could impact her family tax situation. And then the ethics board had reached out to me. They're looking at any conflicts between my role as the Shelter Island Fire District treasurer and this, and some of the questions that they asked. Historically, if there was something like when the cell tower came, I recused myself from deciding on the cell tower special permit application. But a couple of the questions that they asked, and they're reviewing everything now, went down to the level of the fire department, of which I'm not a member of and have no relationship with the fire department, and also the ladies auxiliary. So they, the country fair outdoor assembly permit, the Easter egg outdoor assembly permit, like, do I need to recuse myself because there's a fire district, the fire department, and the ladies auxiliary. So just until they make their decision, I'm going to recuse myself, and then going forward, I'll know, do I need to recuse from anything fire related or just fire district applications? So let me know when to come back.
What you got, Judith? Okay, so.
Amber, are they expediting their decision since this is time sensitive?
Is who?
Just to have you a part of?
Oh, I don't know. That would be up to the ethics board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so on to the next slide then, for the volunteer, firefighter, and ambulance. So there are currently 71 recipients of this exemption. And in order to qualify right now, the department heads, the commissioners or director of EMS. They fill out application, they tell me who is eligible based on their certification and their credibility, saying that they've met the requirements. So right now, we have it where if they are enrolled and active in their department for 5 years, they are eligible for the exemption. There's been a change in the law stating that it can be dropped down from that 5-year minimum to a 2-year minimum. And if we were to make this change, we're guessing, because there's not that many, but we're guessing that there'd be maybe 5 more volunteers who may qualify. And that being said, there would be a potential tax implication of $1,446 redistributed amongst the rest of the taxpayers. And if you have a house assessed at $1,621,000, it would increase 35 cents per house, like of that assessed value. So, this is the only, change that we would be proposing.
Right, so
now.
we reduce it from 5 years to 2 years to qualify, and it's 35 cents
Yes.
on people's, okay.
Yes.
I mean, I think if it encourages people to join the fire department and the EMS, then it's worth the 35 cents.
Definitely.
That's my take on it.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, so I would be in favor of putting it before the public
Yes.
on the 24th. Ben, what about you? Getting a vigorous nod, yes.
Absolutely. But obviously, we need we need to bring all our tools to bear to support the volunteer fire department and the ambulance, so.
Right, so we're going to keep that one on the agenda.
Okay.
So we can tell Amber and Liz they can come back, Federico. And then the next one is for the ADU. And I am going to recuse myself from that because I'm currently with my parents working our way through the ADU +1 grant program. So I don't want it to, feel like I'm giving my parents a tax break.
You step out for this one.
Okay. Just from a procedural, we are going forward with having a vote on putting, okay, just so I know later on.
So, this is the new one that I just found out about, that was passed, I believe it was passed at the end of '24, but I didn't know about it until now. So this is an exemption on newly built, ADUs. We go to the next slide, please. And, perfect. So then, there's some limitations to this, and it has to be an ADU, on a property that already has a home on it, and cannot be occupied by more than 2 families. And the value of the reconstruction, say it's already some sort of little studio thing, like a nicer shed, and you want to convert it, not saying shed, large, not your little 10 by 10, but, something that you'd want to convert into an actual home dwelling, the value or the cost must exceed, the $3,000. So.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I just want to make sure that I'm understanding it. So it says like new construction, but like if you were like rehabbing a basement or something, like if you were repurposing a space, does that fall within this?
Repurposing an existing space, yes, but
Okay.
I don't know about a basement because it doesn't specifically say, anything about that.
Okay, so like I just didn't know if like there was like a, like you gave an example of like a shed, like a space that existed that wasn't.
It's existing and it's separate. I
Yeah.
don't know if there's a distinction between converting a basement or an already existing.
Okay, cool.
Something on the
All right,
property.
yeah, that, I just was like, as someone who works on the ADUs a lot, I was like, that's something that we see, so it would be I would,
And that's something that I'd like to have Thomas like look at
Yeah.
more closely so that we do get, legal advice on that. Because when I read it, initially when you and I were talking about it last week, I thought, oh, okay, well, that will exclude some. But then I went to the underlying law over the weekend and was like, if it's a distinct and separate living space, the
Yeah.
fact that it's part of a basement or attached to the house, I started to wonder like, oh, I think maybe these could qualify.
yeah, I think that would be like super good to know, just because so many of the ADUs that we're seeing are not like brand new builds, So, yeah, cool. Sorry.
And then, moving on to the next slide, the exemption amount is limited to a $200,000 market value, right? So if it exceeds that, you would then be taxed upon that amount, but that 200,000 would be your capped amount. And then, so the first 5 years, that 200%, the 200,000 is exempt. And then after 5 years, the improvements, the cost then diminishes, so goes down to 75% and so on and so forth. And then by year 10, you're finally paying the full value of that ADU.
And Amber, you had mentioned, I think in an email as you sent this around, could we put a limitation, I don't know, of just that they have to be rented year round so that these aren't.
I put that in here. So it's not in the underlying state legislation, but when I was going through it, and so I took license to put it in and you all can take it
Wonderful.
back out.
No, I would love to keep it in. Yeah, I would just hate to see this used for
Yes.
short-term rentals. I think it's
Right, and that was.
that would go opposite of what we're trying
Did
to
you add any numbers or just it has to
No,
be a
just,
a
it's
year-round
in
rental?
here, let me just see.
One 1525A, about halfway down the paragraph.
Oh, yes. So that provides independent living facilities for one or more persons, and then I added on a year-round basis.
Great. Thank you for putting that in.
I mean, just so, I'm just checking to make sure I understand this.
We're not
And
talking
so
about,
ultimately, there is a permanent 5%?
No.
No,
No.
because,
No. The exemption will be completely gone off the property after 10 years.
okay, got it. Says the exemption shall decrease 25% for 3, yeah. All right,
So like after year 5, they're being taxed on the 75% of it, right? And then by year 6, it's going to be 50%. Year 7 is 25%. Year 8, 15%. Year 9 is 5%, and then 10 is 0. Meaning like
okay.
year 10, then you're fully paying the tax amount on it.
Okay.
who would be in charge of the rental program itself, inspection or whatever?
The building department.
Certification.
The building department, and there already is the rental registry. And so people do have to turn in copies of their year-round leases. I'm in an accessory apartment, and so I know my landlords every year have to register my unit and provide a copy of the lease. Two things. You speak to where the equalization rate equals or exceeds 95%, the increase in assessed value shall equal the market value. It occurred to me after this got circulated and posted is, do we need to add something, and this is more of a Thomas question, should we put something in where the equalization rate is less than 95%? Then we use that equalization rate to establish how much of the $200,000 max. So if we're an equalization rate of 50% and someone builds a $200,000 ADU, only 100% would be eligible for the exemption. Like if we can add something before we get to the special meeting. So I'm sorry to give it to you on the fly. And you have like half an hour to. But that was the only thought that crossed my mind, is we didn't really spell out what happens unless. I mean, hopefully we're going to continue to.
Say, at 100%.
Yeah. Yes. And I do, Jan, see that your hand is raised, but because this is going to be subject to a public hearing, we will not be taking comments today, but we will take comments on February.
Yeah, I
20th.
don't have a comments on the merits of those three things.
Oh.
I have a procedural question.
Okay, procedure,
because-
we can just talk.
Yeah, procedural question, basically. My understanding is that the announcement for public hearing has to be issued at least 14 days in advance. Is that correct?
How many days?
14.
No.
Our town code, a local law says 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
3 days.
Yes.
Okay. Well, if you're planning to hold the public hearing on the 23rd of February, and then you have to pass the resolutions by March 1st, that leaves a week in between those. So I'm just wondering if you're gonna have public discussion, public input to those. How are you gonna factor that into the proposed legislation when you only have a week?
That's why we'll have the town board meeting on the 23rd and pick it up on the 24th for the town board to discuss the public hearing comments and then make a decision.
23rd, so 23rd is the regular meeting and the 24th is the work session, correct?
Yes, and so we would have to have a special meeting in order to adopt this or reconvene on another day before March 1st.
Yeah, because, this is like follows the pattern of how the town board has been operating for a while, which is basically the legislation or what needs to be done gets brought in the last moment before some deadline. And then everything is so rushed that there's not enough time for public to weigh in. And then for the town board to take the comments into account, okay? So it seems like it's kind of preordained legislation and basically a perfunctory public meeting. There's not enough time to do anything, and there's a deadline, and the town board has to pass whatever it wants to pass. I would hope that the town board provides more time for people to, well, not more time, but there's more rational timetable when the town board, not just for this legislation, but for others, basically considers the public input and at least pretends that it takes public input into account. So for example, in this particular situation, if you only need 3-day notice, then why not have a public hearing next week? So then the town board has more time to work on a public input.
Well, we're going to set the public hearing today. These resolutions are on the website now, so now people can take a look at them and send us any correspondence, make phone calls to us, ask to meet with us. So it does before we have, almost 2 weeks before the public hearing to, start to hear from the public. Then we will, have into the record all of the public hearing comments. Any correspondence received will get read into the record that night. I feel like the way we've got this set up is short, and we recognize that we are trying to give the public as much time as possible. So, thank you.
How much is the ADU? What's that cost us?
Okay, so, I was going to go back to Judith to continue with that conversation.
I didn't pull up I didn't bring with me the copy of a spreadsheet or anything, because we did that math and it was going to be around,
It's actually,
because it's not being added to the tax rolls. So since there's no additional value being added to the tax roll, there's no.
Will not affect the tax revenue, is what you're saying?
Correct.
Is it only the additional value that's being exempted?
It's
Is the
that
earnings value?
$200,000 maximum is what's being exempt. Right, so say they build a $500,000 ADU, that $300,000 is then taxed.
But why not? But what about the 500,000?
They're getting that $200,000 exemption.
So what does that cost?
Nothing, because it's not being added to the tax roll.
At the time of founding,
So-
it's already in
But
place.
it's not a
It is.
reduction in
It's-
the existing tax roll.
Correct.
But it's an absence of the.
An absence.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we should have people come up and state their names for the record.
Sure, I'm David Gentile. So I guess my question is, for the, looking forward for, at least for this next first 10-year period, what is the lost revenue that would have been captured in the absence of this legislation?
This isn't, you're only eligible for the exemption for units that come on, that are built, constructed after this legislation goes in place. So if someone has an existing ADU that they built last year, they will not be eligible for this program. So we are not taking any revenues, there's not any exemptions that are coming off of the rolls. It's only for what someone does going forward. So if someone next year builds an ADU and it costs $100,000, we won't have that 100,000 added to the tax rolls for 10 years. So there's no, so there's no cost coming off. It's only delaying when that.
We would have to know how many ADUs are gonna be built in the next 10 years, and I think that I don't know how we would get that number.
Well, do you have an anticipation of how many ADUs are going to be built in this coming year? And over the following 10 years, what the lost revenue would be for that?
How would we know
next
how
year?
how many ADUs would be built this year?
Do you have,
Yeah.
you have no projections?
This,
It would be, we could base it on building permit, you know what I mean? Like, you could do that, but it's just as somebody who's worked in ADUs, my experience has been it is varied widely. I don't know how much you could do it. I don't know how much value would be in that, but.
Good answer.
Yeah, it delays extra money, extra property value going onto the tax rolls. It may also, we don't know whether or not this will be enough of a carrot to incentivize people to go with building one. We do know that there's somebody out there who's looking at it, going through the process. This may be the tipping point that she will say, I'm going to proceed with this. If you get a full $200,000 ADU exemption over the 10-year period, the tax savings for all 10 years is $2,420. So we had slides earlier for how much, benefit seniors were getting, and the fire as well. So it's.
So you're saying $2,000
So it's
savings
an
over
average.
every year?
No.
Over the course of 10 years, so $2,000 over 10 years.
$242 a year.
Right, so just the source of my question
Yeah.
is that, I guess my concern is that in this one of these three instances, it seems like the board is moving forward without knowing what we're gonna be losing. And maybe you can't project that, but it's something to be aware of.
True.
That we don't know what the cost of this of the three, of this one, we don't know what that's gonna cost us.
Yeah, I'm looking at it as it's not a loss, it's just a delay.
It's a loss in that but for this legislation, we would be getting increased income. And so there is a cost to passing the legislation, even if that cost isn't looking back, it's moving forward.
I would also argue that there is, carry on benefits. If this was a carrot to get folks to move people to have year-round rentals. If I may finish, then it would ease some of our housing issues, which is quite expensive, even more expensive, I would argue, than $2,000 over 10 years. So that, I think that's also important to add as you're doing into your cost benefit analysis, and definitely something that's at the front of my mind as I consider this.
I'm not doing the cost benefit analysis, I'm just asking that it be done.
yeah, we're getting a little bit off. There is going to be a public hearing, but we can poll to see maybe how many ADUs were added over the last few years. Look at that before the public hearing.
Yes, can I ask clarifying question regarding to what Supervisor just said?
Sure. Yeah, we've
Yeah,
kind of,
because
we've
you
kind
mentioned
of
some-
started to allow comment that we shouldn't have. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it's just clarifying
yeah.
question, because you mentioned there would be the cost to the town, opportunity cost to the town would be 2,000 per ADU per 10 years. But if it's 200,000 exemption, the current tax rate is 0.4%. So that works out to be $800 per year, or over 10 years would be $8,000. And then you multiply by number of ADUs. I believe that those 3.5 million amounts to about 28 units. So multiply this 8,000 by 28 units, then you get the figure.
Yeah, I've got a spreadsheet. I have a spreadsheet on that. We can fill this in. If I'm looking at what was looked at for the fire and EMS, the additional exemption there was like 700,000. So not all ADUs are costing the full 200,000. I think there are some that are less, but that additional exemption was a redistribution of $1,446 of tax, which was a 35-cent increase for a house with value.
All right, so-
Looking at.
So we can do a harder crunch on
And
this.
we're also
Yeah,
looking
yeah,
at
that
our
would be-
tax
that
rate
would-
too, because we don't know if the county is doing this or the school, right? So we're just focusing in on the towns.
Okay, so I just calculated the average, the 0.4%. We don't have to argue about it. It's a fact. Multiply this by 200,000, it's 800 per year opportunity cost. Okay, but perhaps for the public hearing, if the town board could prepare economic analysis and not factor in just town taxes, but also the school taxes.
We can't, we only can control the town taxes.
I understand
the
it,
town.
but in terms of opportunity cost, you can just assume the same budget for the school.
No, if
Because
you.
we need to look at the full impact of this.
No, we can only talk about the town. If the school picks this up, then you go and talk to the school board and talk to them about the opportunity cost there.
Right, I think we're going in circles here.
All right, so how does the town board feel about putting this on for a public hearing?
I think we should put it on for
Put it on for the hearing. I mean, people, as long as it's on the website now, people can digest it, come in and
Yes,
talk at the hearing.
yeah, and Thomas, if you.
Their position, that's
Yeah,
how they feel.
I believe I need to add a sentence to the paragraph A
Mhm.
of 115-25. I can do that now and send it to you, but
Have you already drafted it? Or you're working on it?
I've got the state law language.
Oh.
I think you both need to look at what I draft to make sure it makes sense, because it's kind of dense. But I think there's just one sentence I need to add. So I can go do that right now and send it.
Yeah, that would be good, thank you. Yeah, I feel like it's important to put that in. Yeah. Just for clarity. Thank you, Judith.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Okay. In order to keep us on track today,
Thank you, guys.
thank you. So the next things on the agenda were reviewing the closed hearings. I know you all looked at them last week. Thank you for bringing it back in. I know you looked at them. I just have a few comments about the various, the 4 public hearings that were closed a week ago Monday, just to double check inclusion, because we have our work session today. Next week, we do not have a work session because 3 of us are going to be in an association of towns Sunday through Tuesday. So our next town board meeting, this is the last work session. So I was hoping to get these hearings buttoned up so that we can get them passed and off of our plates, because we've got so many more things coming our way. So we'll work on that. We have an interview at 11:30. So
Okay.
I wanted to make sure that we went into the special meeting by 11:15.
Okay.
So that we could set those public hearings and then give us a minute to pull resumes and, or questions for the thing. So we're going to probably get as far as the closed hearings. Maybe we can talk about calendar for planning board interviews, and then investment policy, fiscal oversight, and board member reports will have to get pushed to the 24th.
Okay.
So that's my plan. And then we also have executive session after the special meeting for the interview, and also contracts and some legal matters that we need to go over. So pulling out my questions, I can be fast. A couple of them are super fast, but on O'Sullivan, I saw all of the conditions. I saw Albert's objection. With respect to the buffer, you had, I think, set the buffer that they were, Teresa Mason said in my notes, she was standing firm on the 30-foot buffer. I had that the original ask was 25-foot buffer, and you all said we're going to put in the condition that it's a 20-foot buffer. So I was curious where the 20-foot buffer came from, because as I looked at it, I thought it was 25 feet. So I wanted to change that condition to 25 feet.
Yeah, in my notes from the hearing and the meeting, on Teresa Mason's recommendations, I had 20-foot written in over her 30-foot recommendation, because the drawing on the plans had like a variable sort of 15 to 20 to 25, like the buffer was not straight across, it had like a wave to it. So it kind of just averaged it between the two.
Okay, and then there was an updated landscape plan, which I could not find in my packet. So I was looking at the old one, but even that, I was kind of like, it's between 20 and 20 when I got the ruler out.
Right.
So how do you all feel about going from 20 to 25 foot?
Teresa was pretty adamant about 30.
Yeah.
The 25 foot's fine.
25 is fine with me.
Yeah.
I mean, I would favor a 30. She was pretty adamant about it.
Yeah, my note said standing firm on that.
Yeah.
Benjamin?
Yeah, I mean, she was very adamant, and I think we should listen to her, but 30 feet would be my preference, but if it's 25, it's 25.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a dead flat property. So, I mean, I don't necessarily see added benefit to the 30-foot buffer. If there was any slope, I would absolutely agree. But it's also kind of nice to have some gap between the tall grasses and the deck so that people aren't brushing up against ticks and stuff. That's just, that was my thought process. I mean, it's just so flat. You're not gonna have a runoff problem.
I concur with Meg on this one.
Okay. I'm fine with the 25. I just, when I heard 20 feet, I was like, that's not right. So,
yeah.
Okay, all right, so we're going to change that. We'll have to, since Thomas is out doing the other, put that in. Oh, and also, the other thing was, when you closed the public hearing, you said written correspondence. I presume we did not get any written correspondence.
No.
Okay. All right, that's it for my comments on Sullivan. Rosofsky, Coleman.
No dewatering? O'Sullivan?
Yeah, that's in
That's
in
automatic,
Teresa's.
okay.
Oh, yeah, they're not even gonna get close to meeting dewatering. That's, yeah.
But yeah, let's make sure.
Let's just put it in.
Yeah.
I mean, in 5 gallon per minute pump
That's in there. Yeah.
and a holding tank,
That's in there.
300 gallon, okay, all right.
Yeah, that was, yeah. Oh, also Teresa had Rosa rugosas being swapped out because they're actually not native.
Right.
So we'll put that in as well.
You see that again?
The Rosa rugosa, Teresa was saying they should swap that out for a native to Shelter Island plant.
Right. The beach roses are not native.
Oh,
So she just wanted to swap those out for a different plant. But I think that was in the updated.
It wasn't, yeah.
I thought it was in the updated. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, I didn't,
I mean, I guess if it's not in the updated, then.
yeah, I
just didn't recognize Latin.
Yeah, I meant to ask Shelby to like pull, like, if you have the updated landscape plan.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we can just put it in the resolution and then they know just to not use those. That's.
Yeah, if it's, we'll take a look at that, Shelby, if you just remind me after the meeting. Okay, time to speed along here. This is a Thomas question,
Oh.
but since he's not here, I'll just raise it with the board and then I can go over it with him when he's back. Do we need to write into the resolution so that the covenant that existed is no longer in effect because they've taken out that, but
Yeah.
then there's a new, do we want to write in the covenant about like what's being replaced?
This is for Coleman.
This is for
Coleman.
Coleman. Yes.
So are you saying add in another covenant on the new porch? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I
I was like,
yeah, because the
old one is,
covenant is,
yeah.
it's taken out, but.
But didn't we already say in the plans that they couldn't have it?
I don't think that I mean, it would be if we wanted to put some kind of new covenant on the property saying they couldn't expand
go.
seaward of the new wall
Right.
of the interior kitchen or whatever, because
I
the
found it.
deck's going by, yeah.
So the deck is now being demolished, removed, and replaced with new deck located within the wetlands regulated area,
Right.
which is consistent with the covenant.
Right.
It's entirely enclosed, unenclosed, and unroofed, thus suitable for a new covenant imposing the same restriction should the town board choose to require it.
Right, so
So-
we could apply the
Like,
same
Yes.
covenant to the new deck.
Yes.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Okay, right, so I'll talk to Thomas about that.
Yep.
Just to keep things moving, we'll go over, talk about Coleman and O'Sullivan. And I didn't hear a mention of a low flow pump on this property, because it seems like we're requiring it of all wetlands applications.
We can.
Okay.
Yeah, they're making no proposed changes to their well or anything.
Mhm.
That was the only reason.
Okay.
Which one?
Coleman. Is that one? Titonis. I didn't have anything on Titonis.
Neither do we.
Yes, that's what I got,
Yeah.
and the Shorewood Rush.
Yeah.
Oh, the only thing there was, I know we had talked about the expiring DEC permit.
Didn't we talk about it running
Permanently?
Right.
Yes,
Is that in there?
The date
I thought-
expired 2027.
yes, so
so
12/7/2027, so since it's February 2026.
They're not gonna dredge again.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, might as well take it to the end of, like, just so we get into the habit, so. Like, why issue it to February of 2027, just take it to the end of the year,
Mhm.
and then we
Yeah.
have to come back. Okay, all right, good.
Quick.
Yeah, exactly, all right, so the town, calendar for interviews.
Let's talk about our calendar.
Yes, I need everybody to get their calendars out. So we have interviews that we could schedule for the, let's find who those email, Julia's. Because what I wanted to do is, for interviews, the other way to do this is we would, it seemed as if Fridays were best for Julia with her work schedule.
Okay. So are we looking at,
What date are we talking about?
I think Friday.
The 13th or the 20th?
I cannot do the 13th
Okay.
because I am already booked. My life is terrible. We could do, I could make time on the 20th. Would the morning be possible? That would definitely
Oh, I
be,
found it. Okay, here we go. Sorry, just sometimes it's like, don't print, don't waste the paper.
yeah.
Let me just double check.
Be somewhere in like 9 to noon or 9 to 1, something in there. Would that work?
Yeah, she's got a short window, 11 to 1 on Friday, so how does, you said Friday's completely out.
No, I can't do the 13th just because I'm already booked, but I could do the 20th.
Okay.
That, like, absolutely, I could do that whole window if you guys want.
11 to 1.
11 to-
Available on Tuesdays?
She is available,
Are we gonna do it the
oh,
24th?
yeah, after 1:30. Let me just see, she's,
on the?
She's done it on Tuesdays at 1:30, but then I know that.
Yeah, I could only go to 2.
Okay, yeah.
So I don't know if that was helpful, because it seems like there's a lot of
It's easier if we
interviews.
can chunk them together.
How about on a Wednesday morning?
Yeah, let's see what we got. So I can't do.
Are we thinking the 18th?
Yeah, let's look.
Quick question. Are we gonna be, AOT ends, we come home Tuesday night? Okay,
Yeah, yes.
okay.
I had the same thing the other day.
I was like,
I figured out.
I was just like, wait, okay, cool.
So, yeah,
If that's the case, I thought I was maybe gonna be at AOT, so yeah, I got.
Yeah, so Wednesday before noon,
Mhm.
which I kind of like because that's a bigger chunk of time.
Yeah, that would be great. Like, my only thing is I usually have a 1 o'clock call, so
Yeah, but-
if we, as long as like I'm out of here.
I have a meeting at 1 o'clock. on
And she's got
Wednesday,
to be to work by noon too, so.
Amazing, great. So we're,
Talking the 18th?
Oh, I was gonna say, so tomorrow's not good because I've got Easton supervisors and
yeah,
mayors.
tomorrow I
to
can't.
leave.
I need a little bit of time.
Yeah.
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 But the 18th,
The 18th,
We can do the 18th.
okay.
18th would work.
Let me pull up my.
like I said, I already have it blocked.
Morning.
I have it blocked out because I was like, am I gonna be at AOT or am I not? I don't know.
Wait, what time on the 18th are we talking about?
That's
How many
what we're trying to
how
figure
many
out.
interviews do we have, I guess is the question.
I could do it at 9,
You could do it at 9,
but
okay.
not, I'd have to be out by 10, whatever.
How many interviews do we have?
We've got, I think at least 4, but we might not be able to schedule all of them.
Right.
So you're
Yeah, I
available.
can't do,
We
I
could-
can't
9
do
to
Wednesday
10.
morning.
And I would have to leave.
And what did you say, Benjamin?
We can't do Wednesday morning.
Yeah, Wednesday morning is tough for me. I've got something at 10. I'm free the rest of the day after that.
I think she's only free till noon.
Until noon.
Okay.
So
The
then maybe
18th is
Friday.
tough for me. The 20th is a good day.
Okay.
19th is a good day.
Back to the 20th.
I could do, yeah, I have a 1 o'clock, but on that, but I could go up to like 12:45 or,
The 19th, we have green options from 11 to 12, so we could either do it before.
Yeah, I could also do it the morning of the 19th. I don't know what her availability is.
Okay, the 19th, what day of the week is that?
It's a Thursday.
Thursday,
Mhm.
8 o'clock? Yeah, 8 AM to 10 AM she's available on a Thursday,
The 19th?
on a Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday, the 19th.
Yes, let me just, Thursday before noon. I've got to write this all in one place before I flip that to my calendar. Sorry.
That's it.
All right, so her availability on a Thursday would be before 10 AM. And on a Friday, between 11 and 1. Let me just look at Monday.
Green options is what, from 10 to 11?
No, from 11 to 12.
12.
Okay, all right, so now that I've written down exactly what she's got. All right, so if we're looking at the 18th, which is a Wednesday, you said between 9 and 10, but then Benjamin, you were not good?
Yeah, I've got to be, yeah.
Okay, so
I
18th.
got to be
is
out by 9:45.
Okay, so 18th is out. Thursday between 8 and 10 on 19th.
I can do
That's
that.
fine. I can do that.
The 19th?
Between 8 and 10, the 19th?
Yes. How does that?
Yeah, that'll work.
So
Okay.
the 19th between,
8 and 10.
okay, perfect.
8, 10, okay.
And
And then,
then
11 early morning.
can we do the Friday between 11 and 1?
Wait, do we need both?
If we need it. I'm just thinking
Okay.
if she needs.
yes, it depends on what Coco's able to schedule with the applicants.
Okay, so interviews.
This whole sentence.
So 8 AM to 10?
On the 19th, yeah.
No, the end, sorry. The
I'll keep the exemption.
So just the.
Yeah, we probably could get 3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's be real. Yeah.
Yeah, we could get 3 if she can schedule those. And, all right, so then the 20th between 11 and 1.
Is this for a board?
This is planning
Yeah,
board.
and I would
Some
like,
people, they were going to be off island or
Well, we'll give
we
them
have those
some-
dates
we'll
or?
give- Yeah, we'll give them, Coco has everyone's schedule. She was just, we need to give her what our schedule is, and then she'll try
Okay,
to fill
all
in.
right.
And like planning board is the hardest one, but if we have like a straggling health and wellness, we might sneak that in.
Right.
Yeah.
But of course, we're getting a planning board chair and trying to group those together and then bring health and wellness and group those together.
Yeah.
So,
Just like on that Friday, I have a meeting at 1, so I would have to like cut out at like 12:45.
yeah,
So we'll do
yeah, we would do the
11 to
same.
12:45. I'm sure Julia has to
And
be
it's-
at work at 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay,
as
so-
long as we're like, okay.
So Friday, your schedule, what time?
11 to 12:30.
11 to 12:30.
Okay, cool. And yeah, and then we could do that. And if we did it to 12:30, then we'd have like, hopefully if we had that many interviews, we might have something to
Yes.
discuss,
Yes.
like
Yes,
feelings,
exactly.
vibes.
Yes. All
Whatever.
right, so
Okay.
what we're going to do then is so we'll go into special now when Shelby gets back. And then we'll come out of the special, go back into the work session. We're going to adjourn the work session until February 19th at 8 a.m. Now, we're not going to make that a hybrid meeting. Just, I'm trying to think of like ease for the staff.
For the 24th, we're talking
For the 19th. Because there's a whole bunch of things, like, we're going to open the meeting and then go immediately into executive session for interviews.
Okay.
So I just want the public to be clear that we will have a meeting, we will open it publicly, people can come and then get kicked out of the room immediately. I'm just putting that out there because for full transparency, that we're not holding a meeting in secret. So I just want everybody to understand how we will operate. And then if we still need to, then when we come out of the interview, we'll open the meeting back up to the public at 9:45, whatever that day, and adjourn the work session again until the 20th.
Got it.
So we're legally following what we need to do for open meetings laws. We don't always, we're not legally required to have hybrid meetings. We do it as a courtesy to the public, so it will only be an in-person meeting. And we will open it immediately. Go into executive session. So, all right, we have a plan.
Okay.
Okay. So now we need Shelby back. So we'll be kicking to the agenda next week. The investment policy, discussion continuation, fiscal oversight policy, discussion continuation. I was talking to Jessica yesterday, and so site plan review, what came to us, I thought it was it was a draft that was still being worked on with comments, but apparently it was out of subcommittee.
Yes,
So, that is going to get, thank you, it's going to get recirculated. We'll see what public hearings we close on the 23rd for the 24th, but we will begin to talk about site plan review as well, time permitting. So just want to put that out there.
You ready?
Start to read it. There's a lot in there. There's a lot.
Judith and I looked at basically what I was thinking we needed to add a sentence, but actually her analysis, we looked at a couple of other towns that have adopted this, was to delete the sentence that just where the equalization rate equals exceeds 95%. And it's just clearer and more, it's easier to read and understand. And the other towns that have done this have just not had anything about equalization rate. So not knowing much about equalization rates or probably how that all works, her conclusion was that we should just delete that one sentence.
Okay. That works.
Replace page 5.
So we need a motion to go to adjourn the, no, we have to go to special meeting first.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Adjourn the work session and open a special meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to.
All in favor?
Aye.
Shelby, you have something for us to sign? And Benjamin had posted his location, so he is eligible to vote today. And I guess you will have to sign this. You'll have to sign this at some point on your return. So Liz, do you want to start us off with the first resolution?
Yes. Whereas Chapter 581 of New York State Law 2025 provides for an amendment of the real property tax law 467 to adjust the exemption percentages for senior citizens up to 65% based on sliding scale. And whereas the real property tax law 467 1A allows a municipality to amend the exemption percentage for senior citizens by resolution after a public hearing, now therefore be it resolved that a public hearing will be held on February 23rd, 2026 at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter at the Shelter Island Town Hall to hear any and all persons either for or against a proposal to increase the senior property tax exemption percentage up to 65% based on a sliding scale pursuant to the real property tax law 467. So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the town board of the town of Shelter Island hereby directs that a public hearing be held on February 23rd, 2026 at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter to hear any and all persons either for or against a local law entitled A Local Law Amending Chapter 115 Taxation Article 6 Exemption for Volunteer Firefighters and Ambulance Workers. Be it enacted by the town board of the town of Shelter Island as follows. This local law is adopted pursuant to the authority granted by Municipal Home Rule Law, Section 10, General Powers of Local Government to adopt and amend local laws. If any section, provision, or part of this local law shall be adjudged invalid or unconstitutional by the court of competent jurisdiction, then such adjudication shall not affect the validity of the local law as a whole or any section, provision, or part thereof, not so adjudged invalid or unconstitutional. This local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with Secretary of the State. And this is 1, 2, 3 pages long, available on the website. And the key here is that we are changing it from a 5-year exemption to a 2-year exemption. So instead of serving as a volunteer firefighter for 5 years, you'd have to serve for 2 years in order to get the exemption. So moved.
And the same with EMS.
Yes, thank you.
Second, I'm going to do a roll call vote on this.
Okay. I'm going to abstain.
Yep. Aye. I'm abstaining.
Aye.
Benjamin?
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay. And. All right. Article 8, exemption for accessory dwelling units. Section 115-25, exemption granted, eligibility requirements, limitations. A, pursuant to real property tax law 421-P, a qualifying accessory dwelling unit defined as an accessory apartment under section 133-1B of the town code of the town of Shelter Island, constructed, reconstructed, altered, or improved after the effective date of this local law that provides independent living facilities for one or more persons on a year-round basis, shall be exempt from the increase in assessed value attributable to the qualifying accessory dwelling unit, limited to a $200,000 increase as determined in the initial year of the exemption for a period of 5 years. The exemption shall be reduced over an additional 5-year period as follows. 1, in the subsequent 3 years of the additional period, the exemption shall decrease each year by 25% of the exemption base. 2, in the final 2 years of the additional period, the exemption shall decrease by a further 10% during each of the final 2 years. 3,
I think the language of that is a little off because if you do the math, it still leaves 5%.
Yeah, I was just, yeah, let me finish and we'll go to discussion. 3,
Okay.
the exemption shall expire at the end of the additional 5-year period. B, in order to be eligible for this exemption, a qualifying accessory dwelling unit must have a value of reconstruction, alteration, improvement, or new construction cost of at least $3,000, must not include ordinary maintenance and repairs, and must be located on the same parcel as a single-family residence. Article 8 becomes Article 9, tax bill enclosures. There are no changes there other than Section 115-25 becomes 26, 26 becomes 27. And the reason for that was that we were inserting this new section. So moved.
Discussion?
Someone second it first?
Second.
Okay, discussion. Okay, yeah, let's just take a closer look at that because as I was reading it, I was slowing down because my brain was trying to process what I was reading.
I mean, the problem is that it says for the remaining 2 years, and that will leave a 5%, permanent 5%.
But then if
I
you
mean,
go to
you have-
number 3, Right
Yeah.
after that, it says the exemption
Exemption
shall
shall
expire at the end of the additional 5-year period.
That's kind of how I was thinking that they were taking care of that last bit,
Yeah.
right? Because if the exemption's expired, then
It no longer applies.
like, I don't see how anything could carry over.
Still causes,
Is my
still
reading.
causes a small problem in the fact that people will be expecting a 10% drop and end up with a 15% drop in the last year. I mean, the language just needs to be cleaned up. It's not like a major problem. It's just not right.
Let me just look at this, because, yeah, I'm sort of looking at it. So in the first year, limited to $200,000.
3 years.
I feel like the exemption shall be reduced over an additional 5-year period. Like the way this is reading, it almost reads like.
So it's like five,
It's like
5 years, it's,
percent for 5 years, and then
yeah, and then
it's,
from
yeah.
the next, from years 6 to 9, it goes down by like 25%.
Just find the underlying legislation.
I need to do a spreadsheet.
I know,
I
so,
need to explain the spreadsheet in words. That's the way my brain's gonna
so
function.
then 9, 10, so then at the end of 9 and 10, it would,
Yeah, it's,
so then it would be like year 9, it would be 25%, and then year 10, it would be 15%, and then year 11, it would be 0%. Is that,
yeah,
Is that-
I think the way it should read is, I think,
Yeah, it gives you a 15% drop in the last year, even though we're telling them that it's 10. It's just a stupid language thing. It just,
yeah, I
Clean
think
it
we
up.
need to, yeah, no, you're right, because as I was reading it, it was like, this isn't,
so then it would be the exemption shall decrease by a further 10% in the, I don't know, we could say like year 9, and then
and then
something.
expire in year 10.
yeah, well, I'm actually in paragraph A still. So limited to a $200,000 increase is determined in the initial year of the exemption. And then I think we scratched for a period of 5 years. And then also scratch the next line, except just say as follows. The exemption shall be reduced. Yeah, no, keep it. The exemption shall be reduced as follows.
Yeah,
And then in the first, what was it, the first 3? I want to see how it's in the law here. During the first 3 years of, in the first 3 years, the exemption shall decrease each year by 25%. And then in the final 2 years,
like it's like year 9, it goes down 10%,
Or
and
make,
then
make
year,
the final 2 years, make it 12.5.
yeah, do we even just want to say it's 100%, 75%? 50%, 25%, 15%, 5%. It's not even 10 years.
Well, that's the thing. It's supposed to be spread out over 10 years. So
I mean, I think you could do it
It's
either,
100% for the first 5.
yeah, it's 100%, right, and then it goes down 25%, so by year 9, you're only left with 25% of the exemption.
Okay.
And then it's just confusing, because it's like a 10% and then a 15% drop, so I think you could either outline that you're doing 10 and then 15, sure, or you can split the difference. I don't know if that's affected by the underlying legislation. So I don't think it changes anything. I could see how it would be confusing, so I think either one of those things is fine. Is there any,
I like the idea of a chart. Because I feel like the languages, we're all getting tripped up on the language.
Yes.
And so
we could just,
we just do the exemptions as follows. And year 1,
like 1 through 5, 100%, you know? It's like,
exactly, year 1 through 5,
Right.
100%.
so do we want to just keep it as is and then just add a little chart so that it's easily understood?
Yeah.
Okay.
So year 1 through 5, we'll add a chart. Year 1 through 5, 100%, year 6, 75%, year 7, 50%, year 8, 25%, year 9, 15%, year 10, 5%. And we'll put that in before before number 3. The exemption shall expire at the end of the additional 5-year period.
Okay.
We'll pretty that up and get it reposted. Okay, so we'll end the discussion. All in favor of the amended resolution? Aye.
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 Yes.
You're abstaining.
Mhm. Great. All right, that was it for the special meeting. Motion to close the special meeting. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Reopen the work session, and we are going to adjourn the work session to go into executive session for interviews and contracts and some legal matters. When we are done with those,